Hello, everybody. It is me, Demetra Kaye, and I'm sitting here with Donovan, the recovering Democrat Sadiq, also known as the Black Yul Brenner. And this is the Demetra Kaye Show. In fact, it's a podcast. We are not live, but we'll be live later with you to have a great conversation. As you guys know, yesterday, as I was winding down my show, I had a glitch, a power surge.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, what the hell? Okay.
Yeah, it's a power surge because it's hot here. So, good old Houston, I guess when more than two people at once can't use the air conditioner or something, I don't know. Hopefully, it doesn't do it today. I'm knocking on wood or whatever the case is. But the purpose of the Demetra Kaye Show is to promote Black love, knowledge, and understanding of all things that go on in the Black community to make us an even better people with the emphasis on even, because we're great people, but we can always strive to do better. Today, we're going to be talking about, oh my goodness, Trump and MAGA. They want former President Barack Obama locked up. And I'm going to tell y'all why in just a minute. I'm going to show y'all a video that has been trending kind of really all over X. X is the wild, wild west. Any and everything goes on X, formerly known as Twitter. And we're going to get into all of that in just a few. But Donovan, what say you?
All right. Welcome to the podcast, you guys. Glad to have you guys back. Do us a favor. It's absolutely free. Hit that like button. Even if you don't hit the unlike button, but even if you hit that's good for the algorithm. But hit that like button on your way in and share on your platforms and your groups and all that other great stuff. If you see there's a red banner flashing at the bottom, if you would like to continue to have these great conversations, there's a way that you can continue to do that to motivate the content creator. You could do Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, cash, money orders, however you guys want to do it. Ladies, if you want to talk to me in private, we could also do that, and we can work out anyway, never mind. But those are ways you could keep the content creator going and having these great conversations. Also, don't forget the African Diaspora News Channel app. You guys, I'm telling you, technology is something, and Brother Phil is moving with the technology. There's all kinds of memberships you can get. If you lock in a lifetime membership right now, it's for the life, but we know as things move on, costs are going up, tariffs are in effect, things are going to start happening. But there's different types of membership. A year membership, annual membership is a great way to do it. They make great gifts for college graduates or people that are about to go to college, high school, to keep these kids informed. Because one of the biggest mistakes that we made, and our parents made, not us, we didn't make it, but our parents made, was they stopped the revolution. And how did they stop the revolution? They did not continue to tell us what is going on in the Black diaspora and what affects us as Black people. So we don't want to make those same mistakes, right? So the African Diaspora News Channel app is a way that you guys can do that. You can get additional great videos from Demetra Kaye, Brother Phil Scott, Vicky Dillard, Wong Gale, and a whole bunch of contributors to the app. They also have there's a show I think they're doing now, is an African show that's on the app as well. And so the app is growing. And so the reason I tell you guys this, because I'm a believer in it. It's something that gives you a bunch of knowledge of what's going on around the world, rather than relying on America to tell you what is happening in Africa and the Caribbean and in Asia and all these other places. It's a great way to do it. And also, the videos that you see here on YouTube for absolutely free, which is fine. There are some things Demetra talks about and Brother Phil talks about that you're not going to see on the YouTube algorithm. It is specifically for the app. So if you want to get into those conversations and get those membership benefits, African Diaspora News Channel app, available on Google Play, Apple Store.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. So if you have been on social media, X, Twitter, whatever, you've probably seen a lot about our former President Barack Obama going to jail. Now, some of you are probably wondering, why would he be going to jail? Well, of course, in 2016, there was this conversation in regards to Russia colluding with President Donald Trump again in 2016 as to whether they interfered with the election. Because, of course, you guys know that he won in 2016. And admittedly, even back then, even a lot of Republicans wasn't feeling Trump at all. So everybody's like, what? So there was a lot of speculation as to, did Russia really get involved? Now, I should say that not only just the Democrats, but a lot of Republicans were like, yeah, we need to investigate because there's something going on. Even Senator at the time, Marco Rubio, was like, yeah, it definitely looks like something was going on in regards to collusion. Right now, he's the Secretary of State for the Trump administration, and he's all Team Trump, MAGA, and all that other stuff. But some of the politicians on the Republican side was Mitch McConnell, John McCain, of course, he's gone on now, Lindsey Graham, and a whole host of other ones was like, yeah, it looks like there was some foolishness going on with Russia and Trump colluding to win the election. Okay, so this is the video that I have seen, and I muted it because it had YMCA song, YMCA Village People, YMCA playing. It's AI. I should say that right off the top. The video is not real. For some people out there might think it is. Here we go. And look at Trump's face. Okay, so go ahead and remove Obama, poor Obama, in jail or whatever the case is. So again, that was actually posted to, hold on, there's a spider over here. I don't want it to jump on me. That was posted to actually President Donald Trump's Truth Social, his own social media platform. But it was originally, I guess, on TikTok or something like that. And he saw it and posted it. And then he deleted it. But, the internet is forever. So everybody else is posting it like, yeah. Everybody, in MAGA and things like that. Now, of course, the video follows allegations from Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, saying that Obama officials manufactured intelligence that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election. Gabbard said last week in a memo that she was turning over evidence to the Justice Department for possible criminal referrals, right? So she's like, Obama, he needs to be looked into. He's going to jail. Nah, it should be said ain't no president going to jail. And of course, it sounds like it's against the Constitution in one way, shape, or form. Obama's not going to jail, but of course, a lot of the calls are going forward, and this was also among a whole host of things was posted from the MAGA crowd. Let me try to find it. Here we go. From the MAGA crowd, and this here is from some cat named Nick Sorter. I've covered him before. He's big time MAGA dude or whatever. He says breaking. The Defense National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has just officially handed the receipts to the DOJ to launch a criminal investigation into Barack Obama's manufactured Russia collusion hoax. We must see arrest, show no mercy, right? So this is the MAGA crowd. They're like, you need to go and lock this man up. Never mind that he's the former president of the United States of America and things like that. They want to see him locked up again. The chances of that are not happening. Now, this is the speculation, okay? And I'm going to give it to you, Donovan. Speculation is this. We've seen Trump the administration do a whole lot of diversions, right? Because the ask from of MAGA now is, hey, forget what you said. We need to see the Epstein files, right? And MAGA is kind of unhinged. They're like, nah, Trump, you could tell us a whole lot of other things, but we're not going to give up seeing what's going on with the Epstein files because, again, the allegation is, and it sounds like it's proven, because Epstein is no longer here, but he was in jail for it. And Maxine, Maxwell, I think that's her name. She's doing a 20-year bid for helping Jeffrey Epstein. And so the allegation is that there were young girls abused on that island, right? And so they're alleging that Trump may or may have something to do with it. We don't know, but that's why they want to see the files, because MAGA is saying, we have to draw the line at PDF filing, if you will. We have to draw the line at that. Then Trump got mad at them last week and says, well, I don't need y'all support. Forget y'all. I'm sick of hearing about it. So he's basically saying, well, we're going to release the transcripts from the trial. And they're like, now, you know, dang on well, he didn't say much about you. You know, of course, he was mom's word in the trial. They said, we want to see the files. Okay. So a lot of people are saying perhaps this is a diversion. And the other thing, yesterday, they released Martin Luther King Jr.'s file, 230,000 documents in regards to that file. Now, his daughter, Bernice King, was like, now do the Epstein files next, you know, because then you want to release my daddy stuff. And of course, there's some things in that in MLK's files that may not be, you know, favorable to him. Of course, we've all heard the speculation as he was being watched and lied on by the FBI as well. So there's some speculation that they might have doctored some things. But to her point, great. Now that you've done that out the way, because that was a campaign promise too, right? Let's see the Epstein files. So people are saying that Trump is using this as a diversion, arresting Obama to get people to chase the bone thrown that way. Donovan, what's your thoughts on all of this?
Well, my first thoughts is if I had a father like Obama, it would be like Obama. Isn't that what he said when Trayvon got killed and all the black people that were doing like, oh, I feel for you, but I won't do anything for you. If this was real, this is exactly how I would respond. Well, welcome to the club. You know, be it you're falsely accused or there's some facts to it. I don't know, don't care. But this is what happens when you do what you do, right? You know, it's hard to unify when you're constantly got a what do you say? A boot to your tailbone. You know what I mean? So let's just be real about this, you guys. Ever since Richard Nixon was president, they have set a precedent to where these presidents are not held accountable. When Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon, which a lot of people speculate that was the backdoor deal, because remember, Nixon had just lost his vice president, Agnew, under corruption charges. And then here's this guy, Jerry Ford, who is in the House, is elevated to vice president, and then within months becomes president. And then all of a sudden, he gets a pardon. Okay? So by that precedence, no president has been held accountable. So let's just move forward. Ronald Reagan, Iran-Contra, was he held accountable? Not held accountable. Who else was also involved in Iran-Contra? George H.W. Bush, who was the vice president at the time. He was involved. And then when he became president, what was one of the first things he did? He pardoned everybody involved in Iran-Contra. And of course, the CIA agents who dropped drugs into the black community and guns and all that other stuff, which is part of Iran-Contra. You know what I mean? So then let's fast forward a little bit more. We've got Bill Clinton, who's getting a little extra in the White House. Not held accountable. Me Too, ladies. What happened to that? Where were you guys at when that was going down, huh? Young, innocent intern taken advantage of. But let's speak about interns. How many of you guys are old enough to remember the congressional intern scandal, where all of those boy interns for those congressmen were being taken advantage of? How many congressmen went to jail? None. Well, I think two. What's in that speaker? One of the Speaker of the Houses, Haskert. He went for something that was kind of nefarious. How many of you guys are old enough to remember when Congress bankrupted its own bank? How many of them went to jail when that happened? And I believe Maxine Waters was on the banking committee. I don't think she was chairwoman, but she was on the banking committee. How many of you guys right now could write a check that has no funds in it? It clears mysteriously somehow, and you don't put the funds back in there. What would happen to you right now? That would be called theft. So let's move forward a little bit more. You got Donald Trump who's doing this, doing that, January 6th, whatever you want to believe. Great, no problem, whatever. Not held accountable. But let's go before Donald Trump, Barack Obama. How many of you guys remember when he droned an American citizen overseas? Not held accountable, but he was given the authorization to do that in the Presidential War Powers Act that he is allowed to do. But what American person who doesn't get due process just gets murdered like that? So here we are now with this Obama thing coming up, whatever. I'm going to tell you guys the reason why this precedent was set up. Do you guys know how that would make the president, the executive of our country, the world's biggest arms salesman, how ineffective it would be for him to do that because he could not govern in government? It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And the Supreme Court ruled, what, 2 years ago? 3 years ago? The president can pretty much do what he wants. There's no problem with it. And I didn't read it clearly, but I don't think it said anything about not giving immunity to the past presidents either. But George W. Bush lied on 9/11. How many Iraqi people were killed? It's estimated that 3 million Iraqi citizens were killed. How many American troops have been maimed or killed and are still going through traumatic things? Do you guys know George Bush does not leave the United States because he is wanted as a criminal by the World Court? They want to hold him accountable, but we refuse to. So for all you MAGA people or you people that think that something's going to happen to Obama, it's not going to happen, because I'll tell you why. And this is my conclusion of this. As long as he kept black people and didn't give black people ish, and he gave everybody else stuff, he did his job, and they're going to protect him.
Yeah, and you're referencing, I think his name was Fitzgerald, was the guy that was trying to sue President Nixon due to him losing his job. So he basically fell on the sword for something that happened with the airlines or something like that. And he lost a lot, his job and everything, livelihood. And so he actually tried to sue President Nixon, former President Nixon, when he was out of office. And they came up with that president like, nah, he was a president, you know, you can't come back and sue him. So recently, you know, when people's like, oh, Supreme Court protected Trump. Wasn't that they protected Trump? They went back to that and says, well, we got to kind of use that for Trump as well. It's not just Trump. It's for all the presidents, because we need them to be able to make decisions when they're in office without thinking, dang, if I make this decision and it comes back wrong when I leave office, they can arrest me, right? So they said we cannot tie the president's hands. So again, wasn't necessarily about Trump, because it had been done before. Like you said, with Nixon, it was to protect the integrity of decision making for the presidential, you know, role. So that's where that came from. Anyway, yeah, and there's a lot of criticism too from Trump, or obviously about Trump from Democrats and things like that. Oh, you know, he's got 34 felonies. Who is he? He should be going to jail because essentially he looked like he was on his way. Potentially, right, before he became president, and that's still impending if they really wanted to, right, after he leaves office. But I have a couple of feelings about this. I'm not surprised at MAGA. Most of MAGA is them folks, right, and white folks. Most of MAGA is just keep it a buck. And if you know anything about them, they are never, not ever, not one time your friend. As Malcolm X said, they can be friendly, but are they your friends, right? So they're doing what they do. They do not like black people. I don't care if you used to be the president or whatever. They do not like you. In fact, more hate went up in the country. I don't want to say more hate opposed to like the plantation and stuff like that. But that was really a hateful time when Obama was the president. You know, they said more Americans went and got guns, and there's just a whole lot of things going on, to say angst amongst the MAGA crowd. Let's just put it that way. So they didn't like him when he was president. They didn't like him after. They didn't like his wife. They like nothing about Obama. In fact, Trump is the one that started the birther movement. That's when he was questioning whether he was born here or not. Show me your birth certificate. And Obama finally acquiesced. He's like, okay, here, sucker. Here's my birth certificate. I was born here. Then Trump went on to, well, he didn't really go to school. He didn't go to Harvard, you know, and then, of course, it just kind of was like a rabbit hole from that point. So that's nothing new. So the way I feel about it is, well, it's nothing new. I don't know how much Obama's sweating because they said they reached out to his office and there was no response. But the other thing is, this is coming from the people that you really helped do more for than you did Black Americans. Some of those people that are now MAGA or chanting "lock him up" and all that. And admittedly, they were saying "lock Hillary up" too, right? And she's a whole white woman. Over some emails, they were trying to lock her up too. So I don't know how big of a deal it is. It's probably annoying for the Obamas, but yeah, he helped most of those people who are got the cross burning and all that. He helped them get things. In fact, the people that would come get him would be police officers, and he did the blue alert for them. Blue alert basically means when one of them are in danger, there's this alert that goes off wherever it is, right? To tell everybody, hey, be on the lookout for this person because they harmed a police officer. Case in point, it was like not even a year ago here. It was 4 a.m. and all of Texas got this blue alert. And people were so mad because something happened to an officer. People were so mad to where they were calling the FCC and they were complaining. How dare you? This happened nowhere near me. And people are talking about, I'm shutting it off and all this other stuff. So I'm just bringing that up because even like I said, the people that he helped, well, if this ever went down, it won't, right? If it ever went down, those are the same people that will lock him up. The same people that he did more for than he did Black people. But the crazy part about it is too, obviously, it's still a lot of Black people, and admittedly, I see a lot of white people and a whole lot of other people saying, okay, this is crazy. But it would really be Black people that go to bat for him. That if that ever did happen, I don't think that Black Americans, especially Black people in general, a whole lot of other people would just sit idly by and watch that happen. So it sounds cute in theory. I don't think Trump actually wants to lock Obama up. I think he wants to appease his base because it also takes the heat off of him and Epstein. But I hate to say it, but Epstein is not going anywhere. The issue of it, in fact, the Trump administration, from what I understand, is trying to go have a conversation with old Ghislaine. They're trying to go talk to her, but many are saying, what would be the incentive for her? Like, I'm doing 20 years. What y'all got? So yeah.
Yeah, and again, to lock up an American president up, the precedent that would set in our standing in the world, we would be, well, we're already a banana republic as we see right now, but it would confirm without a doubt to everybody else, we would lose so much credibility and respect in the world. I mean, we already divided in this country, 50-50, whatever it is with what's going on, you're R, you're D. So, again, like we've been trying to do and the new Black media has been trying to do is make people use their brains and vote their interest, not a party's interest. I think we would be better off. But there are no moderates in either party. It's either this or it's either that, and thus we get what we get. So, and again, like you said, overwhelmingly, Black people will go to bat for Obama for the mere fact of what it looks like to arrest a Black man who was president. And then you look at all the other former presidents like W. Bush, who killed millions of people that got killed and maimed under a lie, which is a crime. I mean, you're going to war. Well, then that would put Congress also complicit in it too, because they gave them the authorization to go to war. So anyway, but the point is, you're going to put Obama in a situation, but you've got other presidents that have done far worse. So it would even drive a further nail into this country, into where we're at. But I do believe it's nothing but like they always do. It's just a distraction. You guys operate. I was talking to a friend of mine last night about it. He didn't know what Operation Mockingbird was. Operation Mockingbird is the same operation that the CIA implemented in the early or late 1950s. And it's still operating today. The same thing that you talked about Martin Luther King being lied on, that is the operation that they used. Operation Mockingbird's sole thing is to control the mass media and create a narrative that comes out to an objective of a national objective, be it national security, be it this or that. A good example in the modern age of Operation Mockingbird would be 9/11. How many people were told that Osama bin Laden had something to do with 9/11? Osama bin Laden had nothing. Saddam Hussein. He had nothing to do with 9/11. Nothing. But a lot of people to this very day
You had it right, Osama.
No. Osama was the agent. Remember, we went to Iraq. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. But see how many people, that's Operation Mockingbird. It made everybody think of a certain narrative that wasn't true. And we went with it. And then once we blew up their country and all this other stuff, got into Afghanistan, what did we say? Oops. Once all the facts came out, oops, it's too late now. That's Operation Mockingbird, and that is still a operation that is still in power today. Ask yourself this. If you turn to Channel 7, they report a major news event. Then you turn to KTLA Channel 5 here in California. They say the same thing. You go to CNN, pretty much they say the same thing. Different broadcasters, but they're reading all off the same teleprompt. How is that democracy? Where's the other side? There's no other side. That's Operation Mockingbird, to control the propaganda that feeds into the masses. Thus, you've got a bunch of Black people that vote against their own interests when it comes to voting. Oh, well, this person's this, and this. Oh, I don't care. I'm a Democrat. It don't matter. I just hate Trump. He ain't doing nothing. But yet, the Operation Mockingbird, you guys, look it up. If you don't know what it is, look it up. It is still in effect today, and it is very effective.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's basically propaganda that's fed to the masses, but it's in effect, but it's not as effective today. And I'll tell you why, which is why, and not even the Republicans as much, even though it was a lot of them, but the Democrats wanted to do away, they all did collectively, with TikTok, right? Even Kamala and Hillary and a lot of Democrats is like, oh, we got to do all this censoring, if you will. Censoring of social media because people were saying things and it was leading people away from the propaganda, leading people away from what they were told. Like you said, ramrodded every day on television. Like you said, you're absolutely right. Depending on, how they lean, you can watch CNN, MSNBC, and the left-leaning thing, and it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. Then you go to the right-leaning, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. But like you said, there's not that middle, which is why politics operate the way it does. And I always say that if we could just come in the middle where the common sense is, then we would have, a more politically stable country. You're absolutely right about the banana republic. We are completely unstable politically. It's just all over the place, right? That middle does not, come into play. And of course, that came into play in the early 1900s in Central America with the Chiquita banana company. That's where it comes from, the term. And the United States had control over their product, which was the banana, in case people didn't know. It's funny because I had to learn about that, in my studies. But yeah, so propaganda works, and this is where I did my dissertation. Propaganda and rhetoric works on the ignorant. They have to keep you ignorant in order for it to work. Which is why I say all the time, and Donovan knows me very well, and Donovan's the same way. Donovan has a little bit more patience than I. I'm just not going to entertain a whole lot of stuff. I don't hardly be on social media anymore. I'll give you a perfect example. Somebody called me today. It was like, oh, they was saying this about Malcolm Jamal Warner. They was trying to go with the conspiracy thing. I said, you know what? Out of my ear hole. Out of my ear hole right now. I'm not listening to that. I said, when I see certain things on social media, I just keep on scrolling because I don't want to be inundated or with your dogma because you got the dogma from somebody else who got the dogma from somebody else who don't know what the heck they talking about, right? And I said, I like Malcolm Jamal Warner, so I don't want to hear anything like that unless they prove something nefarious is going on. I said, but what makes me mad more than anything is the man ain't been dead a couple of days. And I hear all these people coming through with these conspiracies, and it's just like, you don't care about him at all. And propaganda and the rhetoric, it just desensitizes people to where they don't think anymore. If I didn't see it on TV, it ain't true. If my favorite YouTuber who was dumb as a box of rocks didn't tell me, then it ain't true, So I'm one of those people. I think I'm relatively smart in a larger scheme of things. I do okay. Because I spend time getting information, dissecting stuff. I'm not, I don't know if it's just age, Donovan, maybe you could tell me. I'm not as apt to believe a lot of stuff like I used to. But again, I know kind of how propaganda works. But yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of people here in America and all over the world that just believe, like MAGA and the vote blue MAGA and red MAGA. They are propagandized completely. And there's a lot of other organizations that I will not say, a lot of the complete cult mentality, right? In order to have a cult, you have to have propaganda to use on that cult. And propaganda, as we said, works how? Because people don't think. They can't think. All they believe and think is what you say. Whatever you say, I believe. It's got to be true. And you keep ramming it over and over again. Check it out. Vote blue no matter who. Vote blue no matter who. Vote blue no matter who. And pretty soon you hear your mama saying it, hear your grandmama saying it, see everybody at the church saying it, you see people on social media saying it. And then this is the other thing. And I'm going to give it to you. Hope and change. You got to hope and change. It's the hope and change you could believe in. Most everybody said it, but as Ann Coulter brought to our remembrance, nobody ever asked Obama what it even meant until this day. Nobody can define what hope and change means because it was propaganda and everybody ate it up. So you got to be very careful of the things that you inculcate, because then you end up spewing, and God forbid you a parent, then you start teaching that to your babies. The ignorance, which is how the stuff from the plantation all those years ago, it's here in 2025 because that ignorance was taught, and the propaganda about Black people was taught, and you see it rear its ugly head even today.
It's funny that you bring up the hope and change. Now, why was that such a slogan and it was so relevant within the Black community? I'll tell you why. And those of us that are old enough can remember. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Who ran on that in 1987, 84? Jesse Jackson. And people equivocated hope and change with keep hope alive. It was a continuation of the dream or the see, and there's the propaganda. Oh, the hope. We didn't define what hope, keep hope alive meant either back then. It just sounded good. But propaganda, you guys, it's a very powerful tool. It is so powerful that it swayed a nation to wipe out its Jewish population and start World War II. If it could happen to them, it could happen to anybody. Don't be sitting here going, well, I'm an American. It would never happen over here, whatever. What do you think is going on right now? In Nazi Germany, one-party rule. What did the Democrats in the last 4 years try to do? They tried to flood this nation, this is my opinion, to propagate one-party rule. You let all these people in here, then they owe the Democrats their vote and their allegiance because the Democrats led them in here. Why do you think 90% of Black people, more than a little bit 90%, vote Democrat? Because under the Democrats, we were given opportunities while the white man went and fought in World War II. We had to go to the factories and do all those things, and the mass migration out of the South happened under FDR. Because FDR didn't want to do nothing for no Black people. He didn't. It took his wife to convince him to go get those votes. Propaganda is real, you guys. And and put it like this: if you are out here joining an organization based on a slogan, you've been propagandized.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further, Donovan. That keep hope alive is really a derivative of we shall overcome, right? Even today, people sing we shall overcome, and it's like, okay, and when are we gonna get there? Like, when are we gonna overcome? So that's what that was. It's just different ways of saying it because that's been embedded in us from our ancestors. We shall overcome, ain't nothing gonna turn me around, and one day, and all this other stuff. And they just keep remixing, right? Joy and vibes. I'm just waiting for we just need the joy and the vibes back. And it's like, oh, okay, right? And then, like you said, with FDR, we've been voting that way because, again, we were Republicans. up until then, FDR came out with the New Deal, of course, right after the Great Depression. Everybody was suffering during the Great Depression, but nobody obviously worse than Black people, right? So FDR was like, okay, bet we're gonna do this New Deal where we get these social programs. I know it really kind of came into play during LBJ, but there was some social programs under the New Deal and things like that. And he didn't want to include Black people, but like you said, his wife was like, yo, you are in battle. Now he won Iran with 4 times. This is when, before they had term limits. And he was in battle. He had some health issues and things like that. But his wife was like, well, you're going to have to, talk to the Negro. Because he didn't want, I think it was Du Bois. I think it's who it was. He didn't want him to come to the White House at all. He didn't want him to come to the White House. And his wife was like, you're going to have to do that. Take pictures with the Negro. Because they, we need their vote. Because Black people could vote. We just didn't have the rights, right? They had to poll tax, you had to count the jelly beans, and a little going on if you tried to vote, right? Because Black men could always vote since the 1860s, something like that. But again, we were Republicans, so that's how we got on board again. And we've been voting that way ever since. And I don't know how much of the New Deal that we benefited from, but I would say if we did, that was really kind of the last thing we as Black people. I could say that the Democrats low-key reluctantly did. But that also proves that nobody in the White House, never no time, like Black people, we were always a pawn to be used. Again, we were, and Black people really think about it, we're still really more conservative. Unfortunately, though, the conservative part of Black Americans are starting to leave here, right? They going up to glory, which would be our mamas and our grandmamas and granddaddies and daddies. Those were more like the conservative. Now, I don't even get into that, but not so much. We're not conservative, right? Because even back then, Donovan, you're on both sides of your family, grandmamas and grandpapas got a whole town full of children, so they didn't believe in, oh, well, let me go on down to Glodas and get the hanger treatment, like we just having these kids. So that was more conservative, right? Nowadays, it's like, oh, you're pregnant, girl, you go ahead and call 1-800. Get a hanger.
Fly to California. It's still legal over there, right?
Yeah, so those conservative values are leaving because, to your point, Operation Mockingbird propaganda is telling us, especially in the Black community, you don't want that baby? It's all right. They'll take care of it for you. A lot of cases, Medi-Cal pay for it, and all that other stuff. So yeah, it's just really, as they say in the nation, it's all about knowing. And they say to learn the history so you can see how we got here. A lot of people don't know that, which is why people are propagandized, Donovan, because people just don't know the history.
Yep. Breaking news. Legendary rocker with the band Black Sabbath died less than 3 weeks after a retirement concert. Ozzy Osbourne dies at the age of 76. The great ones are going. Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne, yeah, he's a problematic dude. Especially when he like to bite the heads off of chickens and all this other. Yeah, he's kind of weird.
Did you see his last concert? He was in the throne, and he was still rocking it. And then here it is 3 weeks later, and he's gone. Isn't it? It's just sad.
Yeah, he already had some issues. He was, bad off, but yeah.
Well, come on. I mean, he was hardcore rocker. I mean, it was, yeah.
I'm surprised he's still here.
I thought he passed a few years back, by now, but he just passed just now.
Yeah, a devil, nevertheless. But
it was our high school music. When you go to the dances, the white kids would play their stuff, and the meddlers and all this.
Listen, I'm gonna say this: R.I.P. R.I.P. I'm just saying, you weren't around worshiping the devil. Some tell me you want to be there with him. You run around here doing demonic things. Let's not keep it above. Black Sabbath, very demonic. And
AC/DC,
all of that, very
Alice
demonic.
Cooper, all these groups.
Yeah. Very demonic. And that, again, that's some kind of propaganda. If you will, because a lot of people just didn't know the history or the meaning behind a lot of that, what they were actually listening to. I mean, you listen to some of that metal death and all that other stuff.
Metallica.
Yeah, it's like, What you saying now? What? You could be rocking out, talk about I'm driving you to hell. You know.
But you know what I like about it is, you know, we grew up in an age where you had the old and the new, like you had the old rockers, then you had the metal rockers. You know, Aerosmith. Who brought Aerosmith back out of the grave and from the drugs? It was Run DMC. You know, it was like brought these bands back and just, we just grew up in a magical time. So I'm gonna give him his dead flowers, you know, because like I said, he was an intro part of me growing up and, you know, listening to this. I didn't listen to his music. I didn't buy it, but I would hear it at the dances or, you know, my friends that were in the metal, you had to know who these people are, you know, Twisted Sister and all these groups. I mean, it's
And I like Twisted Sister now. I like Twisted Sister. Yes.
But look, my favorite rock band of the 80s of all times, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but mine, of course, you got Guns N' Roses. That was later 80s, but I'm talking about in the early 80s, like Fast Times at Ridgemont High type, Van Halen. Sorry. I got to go with Van Halen. David Lee Roth, Van Halen. That was my favorite group. The Teacher. Come on, man.
Yeah, because they kind of went mainstream, right? They went mainstream, and I think they even did a song for the Olympics, the '84 Olympics, and all of that. So yeah, they really had kind of went mainstream at that point.
And who did the guitar solo on Michael Jackson's "Beat It"? Eddie Van Halen.
I was about to say that, but I didn't want to be wrong. Yeah. Me personally, I didn't get into a lot of heavy Hessian head banging heavy metal or nothing like that. I like some songs here and there, but none of that stuff where you're just scratching out your vocal cords. Because I'm one of those people. I need to hear what you're saying, right? I could be talking about, listening to Jump Off the Building tonight into the pit of hell, right? So that's what I said. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne, he lived that life, and I'm just assuming that's where he wanted to be, until he get there, and it's like, yikes, I was just playing. But yeah,
all the greats are going. I mean, we're losing them.
But to your point, though, which it reminds us, we're getting older. So for me, as being a very young, vibrant, 54 years old.
You told me you were 26. I thought you were your sister's little sister.
Well, I am in size. I am the little sister and the smaller sister in size. Okay, my sister's on Amazon. But yeah, it just really reminds us, Donovan, that life is fleeting. It is, and just kind of really just talking about Malcolm Jamal Warner. He was 54. Had his whole life ahead of him, and he was on Melissa Ford's podcast, and he was speaking about leaving a legacy and this, that, and the other just a couple of days ago. And you just never know, which is why you really should try to make life count every day. As I said, one of my favorite commencement speeches is from that of the late Steve Jobs. He was a creator of Apple and all of that. And he basically said after his first bout of pancreatic cancer, he kind of, strangely enough, got out of remission because that's one of the cancers that's kind of hard to beat. At the commencement speech, he was like, go to the mirror every day and ask yourself, if today was my last day, what would you spend it doing? And he says, whatever you answer, go do that. Because often when people have a brush with death or they know that, time's ticking, then they want to go be intentional about life and live every day to the fullest and just do everything. But you're supposed to be doing that now. I often have conversations, Donovan, with people who I say, when are you going to retire? And they can retire, but it's like, even within a couple of years, when are you going to retire? I don't know. I never thought about it. I said, did you know that you weren't supposed to retire, work till you die? Which most people, and I understand why people do now, because the cost of living does not meet their retirement, whatever they might have saved up for, right? So some people are like, yeah, I got to keep working. But there's so many other factors in that. But it's like most people, Donovan, me and you both known people who retired when they were like, right? And then, but the whole time they're working, they're like, oh, when I retire, I'm going here, I'm going to travel here, I'm going to go fishing, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to be living the life. Now, mind you, Donovan, you and I, we're in our 50s, right? There's some days we wake up and we're just like, get somebody else to do it. I just can't, right? I don't have the energy to do it. Now add 20 years onto that. You ain't gonna be wanting to get, Donovan, you're a world traveler. You ain't gonna be wanting to get all your bags and pack all the stuff and I'm going on vacation at 70. You think it's the idea, but traveling now. I like traveling when I get there. I don't like traveling to prepare to get there, right? So I cannot imagine waiting till I'm retired to say, okay, now I'm gonna live life.
Right, I got all my pills. I got to get. Oops, I don't have enough pills for the trip. Or you got all the logistics. That you got to deal with. I need my compression socks. If you get on the plane, all these things. And this is what I try to tell people. Yeah, we need
compression socks now.
Right, but this is what I try to tell people. You got to do it now. But then again, some people will take that out of context and think I'm gonna smoke all the weed and drugs I can and just live every day until like it's the last day. No, that isn't what they're saying. What they're saying is everything in moderation. If you can't afford, again, you hear the stories of these people, men and women, putting trips on their credit cards that they can't afford to go to. That doesn't make any sense to me because you're compounding your problem. Just things like that. Everything in moderation. But the thing is, you're right. We are not supposed to work until we're dead. But unfortunately, propaganda has made people think, I got to work until I'm dead. I got to have a job. I got to keep. I hear guys say about, well, I only got a job because I want something to do. So traveling to Fiji isn't something to do. Going to the national parks around the United States isn't something to do with your grandkids maybe in the summertime or something like that. You mean to tell me in this whole wide world, the only thing you could think of doing is working to make somebody else rich? Okay.
Because many are conditioned to be a slave. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about our ancestors, but slave mentality is I'll work for somebody else until I can't do it anymore, which is why you see so many older people in their 70s, right? Working in even 80s, right? They're working, whether it's, people greeter at Walmart or whatever it is, but we weren't supposed to work till we die. We were supposed to work regular age, 50s maybe, because you're still vibrant. You should be if you're taking care of yourself. And then you're supposed to go do life. You're not supposed to, like I said, when I used to work at Frito-Lay, I see people coming in and they just like, damn, when you gonna give up the ghost? Now, not going to glory, but punch out one last time. When are you gonna be? I mean, people would die at work. They would, or not at work. Some of them did now. But they just died working. Now, for me, I have epiphanies every day because certain things just show me different things. And I'm one of those people, I just don't want to work for somebody else. Today, I really just kind of kept hearing in my mind, be your own success story. Because we all got a success story we could tell somebody else. But rarely do we tell our own success story. And with that, you have to say, okay, for me, I don't want to work until I die. Okay. So for me, I have to say, well, what does that look like? What do I have to do in order to say, oh, I woke up at 10 o'clock today because I wanted to. Not like Donovan, right? You wake up when you want to wake up. So I got to put certain things in perspective, right? What does that look like financially for me? Do I have this big giant house payment? Donovan, at our age, we have friends that are buying these monstrosity of homes, right? And they're paying these big old giant mortgages. And they said, I just saw yesterday that throughout all the United States, people are foreclosing like crazy. Texas here, you can go down any block, any neighborhood, you'll see 3 and 4, sometimes 5 houses on the same street for sale. So it's for our age, we ain't supposed to be taking on this debt. That's why I call it over the hill, right? When you're going downhill, it's like, my house is paid off, or, my car is paid off. You ain't got all these big old giant debts. So you got to figure out what that looks like for you. Otherwise, you will work till you die.
Yes. And if you think about it, you guys, why do you think young people are running around here without a job, without an opportunity? Because the older people are staying on these jobs longer or taking the jobs that are available to the young people. And thus, when and that shows you the selfishness of that generation and our generation as well. You shouldn't be working. To me, Demetra, you shouldn't be working nowhere past 55 years old at its most extreme. If you haven't got your stuff together by 55, you got to give the other generations a chance to raise their families. Oh, no, you just go out there and get more babies. I'll take care of the ones you got. Look at all of the people that are now caught because they lived a entitlement lifestyle. And I'm talking about welfare and Medicaid and all this other stuff. I'm not saying, I'm talking about the people that abused it. I'm not talking about the people that needed it. I'm talking about the people that have passed it down. And now look at what's happened. The government says we're not going to be your husband anymore, or your sugar daddy, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to cut you off. Now these people are scrambling because most of their lives they looked at everybody else to work. Now they're going to make you work, and you have no work skills. But you're not supposed to work forever till you're dead. It's supposed to give the other generations a chance. And when you work into your 70s, you're not giving the other you're holding a job. Let's go back to the illegal immigration. That's a problem with the illegal immigration. Did you hear about that guy? He was the CEO of the MARTA system in Atlanta, Georgia. He was the CEO. He self-deported. He was the CEO. So when we talk about all you bleeding hearts out there, when you talk about illegals and doing this, whatever, this guy was the CEO of the MARTA system in Atlanta, Georgia. He self-deported back. He's going to be self-deporting back to Canada. That could have been a job a Georgian could have had. You see what I'm saying? These jobs and these positions, this is our problem. I get tired of looking at young people that can't find a job because of illegal immigration, or older people that should have had their stuff together by now and they're still working. You create a pancake problem. And so now our children will be in their 70s by the time that they're ready to kick out of here because they got to continue to work because they missed a whole 20, 30 years because everybody else was working.
Yeah. And for me, I don't have a lot of debt per se, and I purposely try not to do it. Like Walter all the time says, Demetra has great credit. It's like, I want to keep it that way because I might need to get the hell up out of here and I need to, finance something one last time. You know what I mean? But for me personally, if anybody's ever known me, I've just lived a simple life. I like to do things, sure, but I'm not one to spend a lot of money on clothes. You go in my closet, there's not a bunch of labels, no Uchi, no Gucci, no Lil. I don't have none of that. I don't give no white folks that kind of money. See, I've always kind of been like that. I'm not, they need to pay me. The advertising, I'm not advertising no double G's, no LVs, none of that for them, right? Because that's just how I see things. So I'm not a label 304, for lack of better words. My car's a 2013. It's paid off. And I'm going to keep on rocking it till the wheels literally fall off. It's got a brand new engine. It was a recall. So I'll take care of the stuff here and there. I like to live a simple life. I don't like to be stressed out over a whole bunch of debt and bills and this and that. Nah. Because Glow's going to go up out of here. If I need to go take me a little, trip with the older homies, we take a bus trip somewhere or whatever. I'm not worried about I spent $2, how I'm paying my rent and all that other stuff. Listen, I could buy me a house. I can. I don't want to do that though. Because right now, I'm 54. And for me to buy a house, I'm going to be taking on two hours.
Yeah, you're going to pay it off. Yeah, you're going to pay it off when you're 90? What's going to happen?
My grandkids be, whatever the case is. Right now, I don't want to do that. So for me right now, I can rent. Now, if it come down to it, I buy me some little cute, small, whatever the case is. Nah, I'm not going to let nobody's labels, whether they white or black. Okay, I don't care who they are. I'm not letting no big old giant mortgage, no car notes. I'm not letting none of that take me to no grave. Because when I want to stop working, I'm going to stop working. Okay? I'm not going to be on, because Donovan, we know people like that. We see them on the outside. Oh, they got it going on. Look, they got all the labels. They got all the new cars. They got the 2025. Big
not real. It's not real.
Then when they get off of social media fronting, we talk to them in real life. They're like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. What you mean?
I got friends that they look like they got it, and we talk about going on a trip. oh, I ain't got no money to go. What you mean? What you mean you ain't got no money to go? And you
But
know
they
me,
just got
Demetra,
those flossing big body
right?
cores and all
Cars
that up on social
and
media.
yeah, all this other stuff. And you know me, when I go on vacation, one of my biggest pet peeves is people who go on hang out with me on vacation and they're penny pinching money. Why are you on vacation if you have to penny pinch?
Well, I'm one of those people that I budget. Like I don't go, hard in the paint, when I'm out there. Because let's be real, you can spend a lot of money on vacation depending on what it is. So you should budget for that. If you're gonna go, whatever the case is. But yeah, for me, I'm one of those people. I just like to be somewhere. I ain't got to spend a bunch of money on souvenirs or whatever the case is, because you ain't finna be bringing me none back. You know what I mean? I know that sounds kind of cold, but when I go on vacation, I go on vacation for me. I don't go on vacation, be stressed out. I'm gonna have to buy this for this person. That hell no, because I'm not a shopper.
Packing in your luggage.
No. If I see something cute and I think of you, yeah. I used to do that before. Like, we went to South Africa. I did that, we did it, I should say.
Sure.
But now when I go on vacation, I don't even hardly take no pictures. Because I'm on vacation for me. I'm not on vacation for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm on vacation for me. I don't spend no money outside of what I need to spend. If I see something cute, great. I'll get it.
Yeah, ever since I traveled in my whole travel lifestyle, I never went and got people anything unless it's something specific. My mom would tell me, go get some jade or something like that for my mom or somebody that's really close to me. But all in all, I would just get a postcard because whatever happened to that old saying? It's the thought that counts. I would get a postcard and say, here I am.
I don't know, funky postcard.
But the point is, I would get that from my grandparents, and that would make their whole day. Like, hey, he's over here. Oh my gosh, and here's proof he was over there. Whatever the deal. Because you always got that uncle. Okay, I'm gonna call back in 74. We're not gonna be an executive. And you're like, no. Where's the proof? Where's the picture? There's nothing available. But back to our thing. Propaganda is a very, very strong medium, and people got to understand. And again, I'm going to encourage people to look up Operation Mockingbird. It is a very, very in play operation that has not stopped. So ask yourself, wait, Jeff Bezos owns the Wall Street Journal, right? Yeah. So if you really look at all of
Washington
the major
Post. Washington Post.
Right.
Murdoch owns
but notice only I think it's like less than 10 people in the United States own all the news outlets. How is that? That's why they want to shut down social media, so we don't tell you these things. You think about it like, what about Operation Mockingbird? Never heard about that. When I told my friend about it, he had never heard about it. I said, do your homework. I said, I'm gonna give you a homework assignment. Go look it up, go read it. And next time I talk to you, we can talk about it. There's so much information this government does not want you to know because they don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to think. And we always say this on the show, and this is what I think is what makes this show a lot better than a lot of shows out there. We don't want you to listen to what we say. We want you to research what we say because we don't want to be out here just spouting some BS. And if we're wrong in some of the things we're saying, please come back and correct us. This is a conversation. So we encourage that. Other sites don't do that. We encourage that.
Absolutely, 1,000%. Do your own research because we have to do our own research, right? Which is why, unfortunately, a lot of arguments happen all over the place because if you know something and you've researched it, that's why I said to stop arguing with dummies. Stop, and I mean that in the most lovingly way possible. Stop arguing with dummies and idiots, right? Because arguing with dummies and idiots make you that. Okay, because if you're knowledgeable, you should already know. Listen, man, I'm gonna waste my breath arguing with you. Because you're not gonna convince me, and I'm not gonna convince you. So let you go on about your dumb little way, and I go on by my way, right? You go live your dumb life, and don't bother me darken my doorstep no more. That's just the energy I'm on now. I'm not arguing with silly folks or whatever the case is. Because, oftentimes I have people want to debate me. They want me to come on. I'm like, for what? It's not a debate. Nothing about the rules of debate, not even a little bit. What you think is a debate is actually an argument that you heard from somebody else and heard from somebody else and heard from somebody else. Nobody fact checked nowhere in between there. So you're going to bring that to the argument and talk about, well, there's a lot of that. Do that with your mama, not me. Anyway, Love and appreciate every last one of y'all. We'll be back here at 5 o'clock Central Time. Do not miss it. I don't know what we'll talk about, but I'm sure it'll be interesting and we'll have that conversation with you. So in the meantime, you all be blessed. Peace.